Hello, everybody. Welcome to FF Uncensored. Why do we start like that when we're not live anymore?
Well, we're live to that person that you're listening right now. We're kind of real to you. So this episode is brought to you by Well Made Meals.
Luckily, you just showed up because I was eating donkey chips before this.
You're eating what?
They're these tortilla chips, and they're called donkey chips. And my dad's here, and he brings them from home when he comes. But he brings one bag that he's usually already opened and started snacking on. And I'm always very disappointed because they are the crunchiest tortilla chips ever. They're so good.
Well, I'm having a chicken pot pie.
Well, that sounds delicious.
Beef and green beans and carrots and potatoes. Solid.
Well, very nice. All right, so we today have decided. I mean, we have a couple really cool upcoming topics we're going to talk about. So today, I think we kind of talked about it last week's episode about hitting snooze, and how this affects your day and really like your overall goals and all that other stuff. So we are going to dig into talking about hitting snooze. Was that a good drum roll?
That was a good drum roll. But hey, you know what? You know what?
That was a really long drum roll.
4 seconds.
All right, so you want to kick off?
Well, I mean, so let's just talk about this idea of snooze. So first and foremost, this is a very bizarre concept. Mainly because, and I hear people that hit snooze 2 or 3 or 4 times, right? Like they just keep hitting snooze. So if I hit snooze 3 times, that's an extra 30 minutes.
No. On an iPhone, it's only an extra 27 minutes.
Oh, whatever. So
I'm sorry.
Let's round up. So 30 minutes.
Okay.
So you would have been better off by just setting your alarm 30 minutes later so that you can continue in your sleep pattern rather than waking up, going back to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep. And so your body's you don't even have enough time to really fall into any of these stages of sleep to give you much of any benefit.
What about someone who says they need to prepare themselves? So they set the alarm and then they hit snooze because they need that get up time. Like it helps me get myself up.
Like I think we need to think about what we're doing with our life, that we are not excited to get up and do something, right? If you're regretting getting up every day, I think that's a good omen for let's do a life change on something. That's legit, right? Like waking up in the morning is kind of an interesting phenomenon, right? You literally die every night and then you wake up in the morning.
Oh my God.
You do, because you could die in the middle of the night and you'd have no idea. You could not wake up and you would have no idea. So essentially every day is kind of like being reborn. It's kind of wild.
That was very powerful for you on a Wednesday.
That's kind of wild. But that's kind of what it is. And I think when you start to think about it in those terms of being I have an opportunity at today, right? I woke up just like our boy Pitbull. I think Pitbull had the, really good saying on every day above ground is a great day. Remember that, Pitbull. Yeah. So I think when we start thinking about each day as being an opportunity, we approach the day differently versus having to hit snooze and I don't want to start the day. I don't want to start the day. I don't want to start the day. We all have those days. But if those days are the majority or if those days are happening really frequently, I think that's a good indicator that maybe something in my life needs to change. Because it's not worth going through 50 years of your life being not wanting to get up every morning. So
yeah,
that kind of leads me a little bit into, I saw someone say if everyone asks them how their day is going, they always say it's a great day. I never have a bad day, which is untrue, but powerful in the words that we use impact the thoughts that we have. And so if I constantly remind myself that it's a great day, or I constantly am thankful each morning that I wake up, that I have an opportunity at today, you start to view things differently, right? Because what we look for is what we find. And so if we're looking for bad in the world, if we're looking for evil in the world, if we're looking for that, you'll find it everywhere. But if you're looking for good in the world, if you're looking for happiness in the world, if you're looking for optimism in the world, you also find that as well. And so,
But what you reflect is also what you're going to attract as well. So if you're looking to feel great and all that stuff, and you're being around people that are like, it's bad, I'm having all this hard time, you're going to start grabbing those and getting those feelings and reactions, and then you're going to be this, right there with them.
you're saying about the people that you really enjoy being around. They usually have a pleasant disposition, right? They're usually like relatively happy. They're excited to see you, right? But if you hang around people that are just kind of like, life sucks, this or that, like you're going to embody that mindset. And
Yep.
like, how enjoyable is that? Like that everything is against you or the world is terrible and yada, yada, yada. Like, I don't know if I want to live my life with that type of mental outlook on the world. I don't know.
Yeah, I know I definitely don't want to live my life there, but I would say overall I'm a pretty like positive
Certain
person.
people, yeah, certain people by personality traits or by in their own disposition will be probably trend more towards being more likable or being more
Oh, I'm
agreeable.
not going to say I'm likable.
Well, more like agreeable, more like more just like general positive outlook,
Yeah.
optimism, those kind of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also how we treat each day. So I treat every day as like, oh, I got to get out of bed, right? My first thought every morning is this sucks,
Yep.
right? Like that's not a good way. Like that's not a good tone to set the day with. But if every morning was like, thank you for letting me wake up this morning. Now we're starting our day with a level of gratitude.
Well, it also goes with the get to do list versus have to do or to do list. Like how you look at it. Like these are the things I get to do today. Like I get to do like, or I have to work out and I get to work out today. Like there's a big difference when you get to work out and you have to work out. Like I get to go for a run. Man, I'm going to feel so much better after I do it versus I have to do it. Now it's another thing on my chore list.
Right.
So like how we look at the things that we're doing, like mindset's a big part of it. And that's the biggest piece.
And
Really.
language. Like language is really important too. Like the words that we use, right?
Yep.
I
All
get
right.
to do something versus I have to do something.
Okay. So now we're going to go back to snooze. And when you're hitting snooze, the very first thing that you do to start every day is you break a commitment to yourself.
Correct. 100%.
Like, so you start your day and like the very first thing you do is you're like, oh, I don't care that I set these goals or I set these things that I'm going to do today or I want to be able to do today. And the first thing you do is break that promise to yourself. And I'm going to say a lot of people do it thinking like with the best of intentions, like, oh, it's 11 p.m. I'm getting in bed late, but I'm still going to get up and do this thing tomorrow morning. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. Like, there's also like assessing where things really are and being clear with yourself about what your expectations of yourself should be.
Correct. There's a level of realism, right, that needs to be had. And, maybe getting up at 5 a.m. after you go to bed at 11, maybe not a good idea on that day. But if that's happening every night, then we probably need to reassess what we actually want to accomplish. And if what we want to accomplish requires us waking up earlier, then we probably need to make some concessions in the evening in order to get sufficient rest, right?
All right. So, Trevor, have you ever been a snoozer? I know you're not a snoozer now, but have you ever
No.
been a snoozer?
I mean, not really. Maybe a little bit. I mean, I think when you're younger, yeah. Like when you're probably a teenager, but you don't really know what you don't know at that point, and probably no one's ever given you a better strategy or even talked through like, hey, why is it important not to hit snooze, right? But not like I can't really think of like being like a chronic snoozer. And I can't say like I never hit snooze and it's like an ultimatum where like I'll never do it. Like, I mean, it happens from time to time. You're just like, boom, not having it. But I think when it becomes a pattern, that's one thing I won't let it become as a pattern, because the patterns are what make us who we are, not necessarily the every once in a whiles.
So, if I'm going to run into it, and I'll just use Sunday mornings as an example because Sundays are like the only day I don't have to set an alarm. I set an alarm for 6 a.m. Why is this? Because if I sleep after 6 a.m., Monday's going to be rough. But I have a secondary alarm on Sundays. If on Sunday I wake up and 6 a.m. isn't going to happen, I'm turning the alarm off. I'm not going to snooze until my next alarm goes off. I'm just turning that alarm off, knowing that like maybe my intention is to get up and do a workout. Like for, if it's during the week and you're getting up at 5 a.m. and you're like, you wake up and you only got 6 hours of sleep because you went to bed late. That alarm goes off and it's not going to happen and you're going to snooze. Maybe the better thing is to turn it off and just use your secondary alarm and take the extra 45 minutes or an hour to sleep. Like maybe you have the best of intentions and you need to pivot, but like how often is that happening to you? I promise you I have a better week and I have a better Sunday when I'm out of bed at 6 a.m. Even just like my household runs smoother. It's
like you don't want to make a decision in the morning right after you wake up either, because everyone is tired when they wake up. Everyone, unless you just slept 9 hours and your back hurts because you've been in bed too long that you need to get out of bed. Everyone wakes up and there's a level of waking up that needs to happen, right? It's why caffeine is a thing. It's why coffee is a thing, right? And so making a decision in a state that is less than ideal is probably not the best decision. But when you go to bed, you can make a good decision. Like if you're going to bed late and you prioritize your sleep and you have the capacity to do so, maybe you don't set an alarm for the next morning and you allow your body to sleep until it wakes up. Nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing about you have to get up at this time all the time. Yes, there is some data around having a consistent waking period is helpful in creating a really good circadian rhythm. But one here and there is not going to break any of that.
No, I just know that and it's really about finding what works best for you. And like what bedtime works best for you too. Like I know when I need to be in bed, like, and I have little panic attacks if I'm up up later than that, because I know how I'm going to feel like, right. And I like to feel good, like I like to wake up and feel good the next morning. It's also why I make other choices in my life. Like I do this because it changes the how I am the next day. And like, it's just really deciding what those priorities are. And sleep can be a huge priority. I think that's the other thing that like, it is. People are like, I'm going to need to do this and this and this to be healthy. But in a lot of cases, prioritizing your sleep is going to help you with all of the other things. If you get quality sleep, you're going to be able to improve your nutrition throughout the day because you're going to have the capacity to make better choices because you are rested and recovered. With a good night's sleep, you might be able to, maybe you couldn't train in the morning, but you're more active throughout the day because you are rested and recovered. Nothing's worse than I get a low night of sleep and my ring tells me that I'm like 50% readiness and I shouldn't train. And I feel like that because I didn't sleep. And a good night's sleep changes that, where like, oh, hey, maybe I can't get my workout in this morning because I need to do it, but I feel good. So I'm more likely to go for a long walk in the afternoon, or I'm more likely to maybe do a little bit of like a 10-minute little movement session with a kettlebell. Like you can give yourself some of that just by being able to make better decisions because you got 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep.
And I usually look at, when I'm looking at when do I need to get up in the morning, if it's not a morning when I have obligations or I'm coaching people or things like that, is it's like 7 hours. Can I get at least 7 hours, right? So if I'm going to bed at 11, I'm not setting my 4:30 alarm anymore or my 5 a.m. Like now that gets changed to be a 6 a.m. alarm or a 6:30 alarm if I have that capacity. But that's a concession that I'll make because something was happening in the evening that I felt was very valuable. Maybe it was hanging out with friends. Maybe it was this or that, right? But I'm not going to like still force myself to get up at 4:30 because sleep is valuable to me. So I look at more of like a time frame. I'm trying to get 7 to 7.5 consistently during the week. And if I'm doing that, my brain can operate at pretty good capacity. And then if I do feel pretty run down from the week, then the weekend is a time where I can maybe not set an alarm and just allow my body to sleep and wake up whenever it wakes up, or a small children jump like wakes me up type of thing. So fortunate to have that. We don't all have that, right? People that do have young children maybe don't have that capacity. But I think just figuring out your strategy as a human and going from there. Because your strategy might, at this point, just be to survive, right? If you have small children that are waking up throughout the night over and over again, it might just be, I need to survive and get through this time. Like, and that's cool too.
And survival might mean that you don't hit the gym for a little bit. And that might be a better thing. Like I'm just using the gym as an example because most people who are getting up early, they're doing it so they can go to the gym in the morning or whatever reason. This might be a time where sleep and recovery is more important than getting into the gym the first thing in the morning. And that's completely okay. It's like the dial. So maybe you turn the dial down on hitting the gym, but you turn the dial up on just being more active and mindful of how much you're moving throughout the day. Like you can turn them up and down, or maybe you really only get a good workout in on Saturdays because you have that ability, the capacity, and you know, you don't have to do all of the other things. Like those are completely acceptable. And just looking at where you are, and we're not saying never to use your snooze. We're just saying like, why are you using it and how are you using it as a tool in your toolbox, and what could potentially be a better alternative to you to actually get what you're looking for.
No, I think that's great. And that actually reminds me of a concept called floor and ceiling, but we will save that concept for another day.
Oh, okay. I will put it into our little notes.
I think it's a really good strategy that you can utilize so that you always keep moving forward rather than turning things on and off. So,
all right. And since apparently there is construction going on at Trevor's house today.
Yeah, my deck is finally being put on after 9 months of asking for it to be put on.
All right. So, when we post this, we want to hear, are you a snoozer? If so, how do you use it? Why do you use it? And if not, what got you into using the non-snooze as a habit? So give us some feedback. What are you guys doing? What's helping you? And until next time.